Hey, I hope you're well today. Thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to just introduce yourself to everybody for me, please?
All right, Shona. Yeah, it's nice to be with you today on a Sunday night, bright, rainy Sunday morning. I have been investing in property since about 2018. But before that, we did lots of our own residential properties and developed them. And the kids got really fed up actually after about 5 years of doing that. They said, "Mum, we just need to stay in the same place." So we're now staying put, and we've decided to put our knowledge and experience, my husband's a builder, into developing HMOs primarily from residential or commercial, and that helps us create really high standard, top 10% in the marketplace for our rooms. I'm also a clinical nurse specialist in the local hospital in palliative care. I've got 3 kids, a dog, and all the rest of it that goes with life.
Cool. You mentioned a bit about how you were developing properties that you were living in and your kids got a bit fed up. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about those kind of projects?
Sure. So the year we got married in 2003, we found, just before we got married, we found this property, and it was a really beautiful old gatehouse to a castle down in the southeast of England. So it was, quite unusual to have that arrangement. And it needed a load of work. The people had lived there for very many, many years. And they moved in the 1960s, and actually it still looked like it was the 1960s. So we decided that we would take it on, and we developed it by adding another 80% onto it.
80%?
Over the years. Massive groundworks, lots of landscape out the back because it was on a hill. Okay. So we developed a forever home there. But then my husband lost his business in the recession, and our wages couldn't really support the house. So we had to make a decision to sell it. And we sold it. And then we went and stayed in some rented, bought another house for cash, developed it, made quite a good profit, and then moved on and did another couple. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That little bit of bad history helped us propel into the future so that we weren't relying on our wages almost. It started about that point, and that was 07, 08, 09. Yeah.
That project in itself just sounds fascinating to me. I'd love to see some pictures of that, actually. So then when you moved from that property, you had some money to work with. Then where did you go from there? What did you buy after that?
So we then bought, it was a really poor house as well. Unfortunately, they bought it at the top of the market, and we bought it in 2014. So they bought it 07, we bought it 2014, and they actually made a loss on it when we bought it. It had been on the market for a long time, but they had to relocate. So it was a distressed vendor, and they had a couple of kids, and they were moving for work, so they didn't need the money. There was a supported accommodation they were moving to. So we took that on board. Unfortunately, they didn't make any money out of that, and there was a bit of damp issues, so we renovated it, extended onto the back with permitted developments, and moved into it actually. So we moved into it for about 19 months, and then we sold it for a really nice profit.
Excellent. So you've got a history of purchasing properties, doing them up, and then making a profit and moving on to the next one, which just sounds like living the dream a little bit, Kirsty.
Living the dream with 3 young kids and a dog, and it wasn't really a dream. It was more of a nightmare, but because the first one we lived in it when the work was being done, no kitchens, no bathrooms, that sort of thing. And then the second one, we didn't live in it, we moved into it, which was nice, but then the kids were really in uproar because we had to move again. So we stayed in the next place, rented for 3 years, and then we found a detached house that was a probate. And it was a weird house, but it was in a really good area. I had a nice plot of land in the garden. So we went through planning there. I had a nice thought that we could put another detached in the garden, but actually it worked really nice to have 2 semis. So we extended the detached house into 2 semis, and we rent out one side and we now live in the other side. So we're staying put for a bit, and we're concentrating on our investment portfolio now.
When you say you're staying put for a bit, do you mean like 5 years, 10 years? You like, oh, in 6 months you might find a new project?
So the kids are really keen this time to move. I'm like, no, I'm not moving.
Why do they not like it where you are?
Well, it's on a road, and because of the places we've lived quite rurally. So they prefer the rural environment, but actually it's a really lovely village. So no, I'm not moving. They can move if they like, but I'm staying put. The way I see this house is the kids are getting to an age where they're going to springboard into their own life. So for me, it's a lock up and leave in the future. So I'd quite like to, travel and maybe have a couple of properties, one in Scotland, one in maybe a ski resort, Canada or something like that, Whistler in particular. So that we can lock up and leave it, so that it's not high maintenance. We've done all the high maintenance gardens, and cleaning is just too much.
Okay.
Keep life simple is my philosophy these days.
That's something I should keep in mind, because as you know, I'm looking at properties with like large pieces of land, and I'm like, oh, I'd love a huge garden, and then I probably don't realize how much maintenance that is, right?
Yeah, it's a full-time job actually. If you don't want a life outside of it, unless you can pay someone to do it for you, that's the ideal solution.
But then I guess you've got to make money out of those gardens. You have to rent out your gardens, have visitors. So you live next door to the house that you're renting out. What's that like, living next door to your tenants?
It wasn't the plan actually. It wasn't the exit plan.
Okay.
But it ended up that way. We've got a letting agent, so I try really hard not to get involved, to be honest. Yes, we're neighbours, and I try really hard to keep it that way. Although Adrian, being the builder, has gone in and fixed the odd bits and pieces without having gone through the letting agent. But it's really helpful for us to have a letting agent, because the couple split up, but they were severally attached to the AST, and I really didn't want to get involved with all that. So the letting agent paid for themselves there. Yeah.
That's good. And so the current situation, do they both still live there, or has one moved out?
Yeah, one's moved out, but they still pay the same rent.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have those kind of difficult conversations. So yeah, it's worth having a
over the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Do they try to ever talk to you over the fence?
Oh no, we just have we bump into each other. It's very pleasant. It's like nothing deep there at all. I just try and keep it very superficial.
That's good. Yeah, because I'm just thinking in general, neighbours, we used to have a low fence, and my neighbour used to talk to me they were just always there, because we have a narrow garden, so you could always see each other. And then after a couple of years we had to put up a proper fence, not because they were horrible, but it was like we just didn't have any privacy. There was just a conversation there all the time. Now I have new neighbours who we do actually stand on chairs to talk to each other over the fence, and they were like, we should get a gate, and I was like, no, we don't.
No, keep the fence there. God, don't put a gate in.
Exactly. Okay, so you talked a little bit about doing commercial to residential HMOs, is that right? Did I remember correctly? Yeah, cool. So have you done one of those yet, or is that what you're moving into?
So at the moment we're doing residential to C3 to C4, residential to HMO, or we're buying HMO intact. So that's going through. One of those is going through at the moment. I've been looking at lots of commercial units that have great potential to convert into C3 and then C4, or maybe even sui generis, to get the higher number above 6 beds for HMOs. And so over the last year, actually I've always been looking at them, to be honest. So I've done some education on that, and there's 2 projects at the moment that have real potential to convert from commercial to residential. Yes, so one of them's really big. One of them's about 7,000 square foot, which is a wee bit mind blowing for me. It's mixed commercial as well, with a bit of residential in it. So yes, I'm looking to my network to give me some support for that. Maybe some advice, or some working alongside, or maybe joint venturing. And the other one is a detached office building, which used to be residential. So I think it would be quite simple to convert it back to C3. But they've gone about it cold, because we talked about planning when we put our offer in. They have then gone and investigated the planning. So they may be doing that themselves now.
So that's the thing, isn't it? When you tell people too much of your plans, and they can always run off and do those plans themselves, right?
Yeah, it's difficult when you're putting a conditional offer in, though, because your offer is subject to planning. So how do you get around that? I'm not quite sure, unless you buy it unconditionally and then take the risk. But then the risk is a risk that you don't want to take.
Yeah, I know somebody that was buying a house that they were going to split into 2 and then build another house in the garden. And they started the planning applications while they were purchasing, and the owner realised, and then they said, oh no, we want like another 80,000 for the property. And it was like, it's not worth any more. It's just now you know what she's going to do with it. And I guess everyone has to do what's right for them. I guess that's the only way to look at it, right? Everyone wants to make more money, but it'd be better if people could work together. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so the 7,000 square foot one that's exactly what I'd quite like to do. I'd quite like to go into that with their consent to do a conditional offer for planning, and both of us benefit from the planning gain, plus they would get their purchase price that they're looking for from whoever was to buy the conditional planning. Unconditional, the planning that would eventually exist.
Yeah.
Then that would give it the uplift of the value that then would give him what he wanted, cover our costs, and we would split the difference 50-50 at the end, what was left.
Yeah, perfect. In those kind of situations, obviously it normally comes down to that the seller might not need the money right now. Would you agree? And I always struggle. Obviously, you have found people where that was the situation before, but those people aren't easy to come by, are they? People that don't want just the money and leave.
I mean, I think even to be honest with you, not even that, but to find a direct vendor is quite unique.
Yeah.
I think Simon Zicci was saying the other day there that it's only like 5% of the population of people that are involved in selling their properties is direct to vendor motivated sellers. So then you've got to find someone within the 5% that is not requiring the cash right now. It's needle in a haystack. It's all about the numbers. You know, it's pushing through and seeing how many vendors you can speak to.
And how do you try and find these direct to vendor deals?
So some of them are word of mouth, actually. The ones that have been successful so far are word of mouth, and it is actually the manager of the cleaning company that cleans our HMO for us. He has other clients, 2 of those. One of them were purchasing the HMO, and the other one is the big commercial one. And it was all word of mouth. He got chatting to them. They said they were thinking about selling. He put them in touch with me. I went all along and had a chat and gave them some thoughts. The direct to vendor on the other way is landlord letters. And I went to see a property yesterday, which was a direct to landlord. And I haven't had any success, but I've had lots of discussion with landlords. I've been doing that now for about 18 months, direct to landlord letters. But I think that there's potential with this one yesterday. I mean, 18 months and no deals yet, lots of discussions, lots of growth, lots of learning to get me to a point where yesterday's discussion was very natural and easy, and they had done their due diligence. They could see that I had done my education, and they'd been on to Companies House. They know my background, so which they told me about. So I was really pleased about that. They said that they had received various letters, but actually the third letter that I sent them and what I said in the letter, they were drawn to. And actually I had employed my 16-year-old who's finished school to do the addresses on the front.
Oh, I thought you wanted them to write the letter. Yeah, go on.
No. I wouldn't quite go that far yet, but writing the address on the envelope, was good enough.
Because it takes ages to do direct to landlord letters. It takes way longer than I anticipated it would when I did it.
Yeah, so that was nice. That was a good talking point. Yeah, so not quite any successes yet, but lots of growth development opportunity there.
Yeah.
Leaflets, I've done leaflets, and the only feedback I've had from leaflets, I've been doing that for over a year now as well, was one of the ladies got back to me and said, please don't put your leaflets through my door. It gets stuck in the letterbox, and then I lose all my hot air from the house. It's costing me a fortune in electricity bills, so please stop.
That's brilliant feedback, that is. Nothing to do with the actual leaflet.
I did have a chap whom I couldn't help at all. He was in a right pickle with his house and a sitting tenant, but I tried to help him. And another one, a recent one, wanted to buy a house. I wondered if I had any for sale.
That's happened to me a few times, actually. People have asked me if I've got anything to rent right now or to sell right now. And I'm like, no, I need to find something to buy, or I need a project. That's what I So yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how people read into what you're doing. And I don't know about your advertising, but some of mine can be quite vague sometimes, because if you're very, very specific about what you're looking for, that might mean that you miss an opportunity, because actually there are numerous strategies that you could use depending on a seller's situation. Is that right? Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah. So when you write your letters, do you have a template that you've got from somebody else, or are you just learning on the process, and are you writing them slightly different each time, trying to improve upon them? How do you go about that?
Yes, so I did for a while send out the same letter. I got the template from a course that I had done, which was the deal sourcing masterclass with Zamazuchi. And
yes.
Yeah, I think that's the forum that we met on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, and then I really questioned whether to continue doing them or not, because I was doing them every 2 months at that point, and I thought, gosh, they must be getting really fed up with me, these landlords. They're just not getting back in touch with me. What should I do? Actually, it was a year later that I got a contact who got in touch with me, actually, and I sourced that on as a purchase lease option. It wasn't right for me in my future, but so yeah, they do get back in touch with you. But I think this year I'm starting to, those ones that I did last year, I'll just put to 3 quarterly maybe, just to and yes, I am changing the letter now. I've made it a lot more simpler. I've opened the conversation up, so it's just about, hope you get, how you getting on, we're still here, we've written to you before, these are the things we can offer, just so you know. We're always in the background, something along those lines, a wee bit more formal than that. But
yeah, do you think that being formal is quite important?
I think you've got to be professional, so it's all about being professional for us. And I think as long as you can you can be a little bit informal in the professional letter when you've sent a lot of professional letters already, and then you can take it a step down, maybe a little bit more accessible. Yes, so I think you can mix it up a little bit once you've established that you are professional. Yeah.
It's I think it's a fine line, because I think to build rapport, I think you need to have that touch of unprofessionalism, that you can have those more natural conversations, but you have to portray yourself as very professional to get to that point. That's what I think.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think an example, the third letter that landlord had received, they were all brightly coloured envelopes, of course, which stood out. And also my daughter's writing, which, is my daughter's writing, also grabbed his attention, in fact. And we actually just started a discussion about employing our kids and starting them on their journey of entrepreneurship, that sort of thing.
Nice. I was actually going to ask you about that. Has any of your property passion rubbed off on them?
They don't really get a choice, you see. They're immersed in it. Day in and day out. I've always, you read so many mindset books, so my middle daughter, she is always telling me off. Oh my God, Mum, can you not just say something normal without turning it into a lesson every time you talk to me? So yeah, I try and temper it, but it's natural. It just flows out of me now,
Yeah, I mean, at least you're doing it, right? When I talk about property all the time, and I don't have half the experience that you do. So when I'm talking about it, I see my family look at me like, They want to see, it happen. Do you know what I mean? But it will happen for me. It's just not quite happened yet. It happened a little bit. I have a buy-to-let. I have a SA. It's the start of a journey.
Don't diss that. That's massive. Taking that first step is huge, and then it's just hard work to get on a wee bit. But
yeah, I'm really interested in doing like what you've done, in purchasing something and then building on that to increase the value and making a beautiful home. What tips do you have for people that have that as an ambition?
I think it's just being aware of what you're looking for, being very clear about what it is that would work. So we were very clear that actually a plot of land, preferably on a corner, with a large garden, and then looking for those properties where it is in the locality that you want, whether it's Google Maps or something like Neighbours or property data, and identifying them. You could then do a mail drop, or you could just drive-bys, just drop a letter through the door. It's being very clear about what it is that you want to achieve. What is it that's going to make you achieve that? Identify the type of property or land that is going to help you get there, and then identify that land on the maps. So it's really being very specific and clear and focused. Yeah, and then go for it.
And I agree with you. And I would say that when people at the beginning of their journey, they may not know exactly what they're looking for, because it's almost like it's the chicken and the egg. You need a bit of experience to know exactly what it is that you need to look for. Do you think the fact that your husband, it's your husband, not partner, right, is a builder, does that must have helped you along your journey, that he has all this other knowledge about the build and what can work and not work?
So yes, I haven't experienced it not having a builder there, obviously, so I can't really compare it, but I would say that what it's given me is a knowledge as well, because I've lived through a build, several. So I've had to make decisions as well. So I've gone through the process. So yeah, it's about your power team. If you don't have that, it's about having a really good power team around you.
Okay. Right. Before we finish up today, Kirsty, if you met somebody today who told you they were interested in getting into property, but they didn't know where to start, what advice would you give them?
Actually, I love Rob Dix and Rob Ben's The Property Hub,
Yeah, I like that.
and
Yeah.
I think that they are a really good place to start. And I would always advise that they go to their website, because actually they've got some really fundamental stuff there that's free. Start with that. That's a really good quality place to start. And I'd also start with Rob Dix's book. And what other property books? I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad gets you through the mentality, although I don't particularly rate the writing of it. I think it's a bit messy and difficult to read, but it is a seminal work, really. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone
I think that
read that one, right?
I think that, yeah. And then there's a whole library after that, but that's what I would that's what I would say initially. I have actually sent people off to the Property Hub and the podcast. I just think it's really, really valuable, really brilliant starting place.
Cool. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, Kirsty, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. You just key me in and my details are on there.
Fantastic. All right then, well, thank you so much for joining me very early on this Sunday morning in the pouring rain. Luckily we were inside. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time, and we'll speak again soon.
And I wish you all the best of luck, Shona. You're going to do massive things. I can't wait to watch you blossom.
Excellent. Thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you. Thanks.